Hey all, thought I'd post this clip for you guys here as part of Module 1. You should be finishing up Module 1 and moving on to Module 2A on the American Revolution and the Constitution. But before that, at any point before the exam, Exam 1, end of the month here, check this out. All right, we know, right, that we've been covering here in Module 1 a lot about what it means to be a constitutional democracy, what it means not to be a constitutional democracy, i.e., right, the alternative being various forms of autocracy, where you have all the power centered in a single individual with like a cult of personality approach. Where you don't have checks and balances, you don't have an independent media, you don't have free speech, you don't have free and fair elections. You got one person kind of running the show. All right, and I'm unapologetic in opposing that form of governance and championing instead, right, the various forms of constitutional democracy that we have in the world today. And of course, in this course, right, we're focusing on the American version. But what I want to say about that is I think that, although, if you look at kind of the organizations that try to track the quality of a nation's constitutional democracy, we don't rank particularly highly on those measures. We're typically ranked around maybe 20th or 25th in the world today in terms of the quality of our democracy. Our democracy is under a lot of stress these days. Various sort of slides towards soft forms of authoritarianism. But nevertheless, we're a pretty okay constitutional democracy. And I'm going to argue here that I think we're the world's most important constitutional democracy. Not the best, but the most important. Right? We're the world's most powerful country militarily by a lot. We are easily one of the world's most affluent countries. Certainly the most affluent large country. And we have a disproportionate sort of role in the world, right? And a lot of other constitutional democracies look to us for leadership. Now look, we need to continue to focus on getting our own stuff together and working on the quality of our own constitutional democracy. That's a work in progress. But I think it's also true, I think we have an obligation, if you will, to the world's other constitutional democracies as the world's most important constitutional democracy. And we played that leadership role, right, since at least the end of World War II. And when has America done well in the world? Since about the end of World War II. Up until the present. And that's not coincidental. That the time during which we've done the best in the world is when we've played a leadership role in working closely with other constitutional democracies. So I'm going to make a plea here for that conception of thinking about what it means to be a constitutional democracy here in America. I think with that power, the Peter Parker principle from Spider-Man, right? With great power comes great responsibility. And I think we have a responsibility to continue to exercise a leadership role in the world today, aligning ourselves with our fellow constitutional democracies. Strength in numbers. United we stand, divided we fall, right? Because autocratic regimes in countries like Russia and China, right, they're always looking for American weakness. They're looking for America starting to shuck off its leadership role in the world. Because for them, right, that's a tremendous geostrategic opportunity to exert their own influence in the world. And in my view, that's going to be a malign influence. All right. There's a deep tradition in American politics of isolationism. It's always been there. It'll always be there. I'm not naive. But I guess I'm going to make the plea here for resisting that isolationism. Historically, isolationism has not served us well. Right? The most obvious example is the interregnum between World War I and World War II. Right, what did America do after World War I? And we weren't alone in doing this, but we were part of it, because these trends are often global and not specific to America. Right, what did we do after World War I? We said, to hell with the rest of the world. The rest of the world sucks. That was a terrible conflict, and it was. We're going to retreat within our own borders, make it Fortress America, and we're going to reject any notion of a leading role in global politics. America first. Right? And that really, right, it sends a message to Germany as they rebuild after World War I, that they now have many more degrees of freedom to do as they wish in Europe and elsewhere. All right. We never ultimately signed off on the Treaty of Versailles. We never joined the League of Nations. Right? Woodrow Wilson tried to get us across the finish line on that treaty. Couldn't do it, right? Because what do you need in the Senate to ratify a treaty? 2/3 of the Senate. Never happened, right? Because we were becoming isolationist. Popular support was behind isolationism. So we became isolationist. That's the risk of a democracy, is that government will do what we the people wants it to do, and that may not be the best thing. Right? But that's the price that you pay for having a democracy. You've got to take that risk. Right? It comes with the territory. So, right, we retreat from the world. Fortress America. And we can do that in a way, right? Because we have the Atlantic Ocean protecting us on the to the east, the Pacific Ocean protecting us to the west. We've got a very friendly neighbor to the north, Canada, that's militarily weak. We have a reasonably friendly country on our border to the south, Mexico, militarily weak. Right? We live potentially in kind of a geographic splendid isolation. And how did that work out for us? It worked out very poorly for us, right? We retreated from the world, did not ally ourselves with our fellow constitutional democracies, and an autocratic regime took advantage, Nazi Germany. Right? Because when America retreats, autocracies go on the front foot and exert, I think, a malign influence on global politics in ways that are bad for America. And ultimately, weren't we dragged back into a leadership role in global politics by World War II? Even the isolationists realized after Pearl Harbor, we can't do this anymore. We have too much skin in the game. And that's the thing. That's the thing that I want to emphasize here. I think we do have a responsibility to exercise a leadership role in the world today. Some people will say, we shouldn't support Ukraine in their struggle against the Russian invasion. Let Ukraine take care of Ukraine. That's far from our borders. We don't have direct skin in the game. We wish the best for Ukraine, but we don't have a stake. We shouldn't be supporting them. And I'm going to argue wrong. That is deeply wrong, and in so many ways. And in the most important way it is wrong is that we do have skin in the game. Okay? Most Americans don't tend to think in geostrategic terms. Again, that's a kind of a vulnerability of democracy. What does the autocrat over in Russia think about every morning when he wakes up? Vladimir Putin? He thinks about geostrategy. Right? And then he can carry that out because he doesn't need to rely on public opinion. Okay. And that gives him an advantage. Right? The American people tend to go, we don't want to deal with that stuff. We don't think it's directly germane to our everyday lives. We should be isolationist. Take care of America first. And I'm like, yeah, that seems naive to me. Deeply naive. Deeply inattentive to history. Deeply inattentive to the nature of global politics. Right? That when constitutional democracies don't support other constitutional democracies in the world, autocracies take advantage and expand their sphere of influence in ways that do harm us a great deal down the road. All right, so it is a classic case, people, of what I'm going to call enlightened self-interest. Right? Seems to me The enlightened self-interest means that we should support Ukraine in their struggle against Russia. Number one, it's the right thing to do. All right, it is a fellow constitutional democracy. Now, is it a flawed constitutional democracy? More flawed than us? Yes. Is it a relatively new constitutional democracy that's still working on its game? Yes. Okay. I'm not going to hold up Ukraine as a paragon of a constitutional democracy in the world today, but they're moving in that direction, people, and we need to support that, I think, and resist Russian aggression. Because again, Putin is looking for signs of America withdrawing from the world stage. And look, I'm not going to mince words here. This is why, right, Russia is supporting Trump's candidacy for the White House, because Trump has made it deeply clear he will give Putin what he wants. He will chop off Ukraine at the knees and side with Putin, ally himself with Putin. Putin's highly aware of that, and sees Trump. I think he sees Trump as a useful idiot for his geostrategic purposes. Because Trump has a real thing for Putin, a deep admiration that I find simultaneously myself puzzling and horrifying. Those are the exemplars for Trump, right? Various autocrats across the globe today. Who does he disrespect? His fellow leaders of constitutional democracies. I find that deeply problematic geostrategically. So I know the rhetoric can sound good to we the people, right? America first. It sounds good. It's a hell of a slogan. Great bumper sticker. I think it's, however, dysfunctional when it comes to thinking about geostrategic issues that do have a significant influence on the everyday lives of Americans, even if that's not always obvious. Thanks for hanging with me. This concludes our module on thinking about what it means to be a constitutional democracy. And I'm making the case, right, that it comes with for the United States as the most important constitutional democracy in the world today. It comes with leadership responsibilities that I think it will behoove us to carry those out as we have since the end of World War II. It's the argument I'm making. You may find that more or less persuasive. I understand and respect that. Thanks all.